Undroppables Playbook, a football podcast. With your hosts, Ashley and Mike. Please sit back and enjoy the show.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Undroppables Playbook, a football podcast presented by the Undroppables and sponsored by Analyst Depot. I am your host, Ashley. This is your other host, Michael Duncan. How are you?
I'm doing dandy. I'd say I'm doing number one good.
Uh-huh.
I should have thought about that more.
Yeah, it was a good idea. Could have used some better execution.
Yeah.
Eagles. Well,
that's what matters.
They are. And you and I got to see the Eagles clinch the number one seed in person. Duncan and I I went down to Philly and we got to go to the game versus the Giants, like third stringers. But honestly, so much fun. I had a really good time. We were lucky enough to be able to be on the field during warm-ups and pregame, which was the coolest experience. Got to see some of my favorite players, which was so fun, and overall just a really good game.
Yeah, I agree. Jake Elliott was awesome.
He was player of the week.
Yes, he was.
Special teams player of the week.
Yeah.
How many times has he been player of the week this year?
Well, one of them was Cameron Dicker. So
okay.
I think an Eagles kicker might have been the third time this season.
Okay.
But I'm not 100% sure on that. It's at least twice.
Gotcha.
But Jake Elliott's, this might have only been his second.
Gotcha. But either way, it was a really good time. I'm happy I did it. And who knows, maybe the Eagles and Giants will play each other again. Either way, we have lots to talk about. We are officially done with the regular season, which is crazy. Actually, before we jump into anything, I do want to note we have not been on for 2 weeks. We did have some family engagements, and last week we made the joint decision to not have a podcast on Wednesday because on Monday night in week 17, the Bills were playing against the Bengals, and Bills player Damar Hamlin did go down on the field with a very scary situation. Damar Hamlin did have to be resuscitated by medical staff and EMTs for 9 minutes with CPR and the AED on field. The game ended up being called a no contest. Coaches and players decided it wasn't in the best interest for them, the mental well-being of the entire team, to continue playing that game. I'm not going to get into like the controversy stuff between the NFL wanting them to play. All that matters is Damar Hamlin officially today was released from the hospital. Fully. He was transported back to Buffalo, I want to say 2 days ago, and is fully released now. Seems to be in really good spirits, and I do want to note the incredible outpouring of support for him from football and just from the world in general. His Chasing M's Foundation, which provides kids to almost like a toy drive, he was raising money for that, and his goal was $2,500. He ended up raising over $6 million, I believe it's at now. Oh, we're 8 now. Okay, so over $8 million for his Chasing M's Foundation. So what was a really scary experience for anyone who watches football, anybody who enjoys this sport, plays this sport, ended up being okay because Damar Hamlin is okay. But that is why we were not on last week. It felt a little bit insensitive to have to talk about that and then move on. But now that he is doing okay, he is alive and well, we are happy to get back into the swing of things. Anything you want to
add? Just that I'm glad he's all right.
All right, perfect. Well, now we can finally say the regular season is officially over. Week 18 wrapped up, and the day after week 18 is known as Black Monday. And there was not as many on Black Monday as usual. This has been a wild season all around. There were firings earlier in the year with Matt Rule and Nate Hackett. So we're going to get into job news that has happened in the past several days. The Cardinals head coach Cliff Kingsbury has been fired. I know you and I both have thoughts on that. Let's talk about that quick before I'll also pair it with Cardinals general manager Steve Keim has decided to step down. I believe it mentioned like health issues and family or whatever, that he wanted to spend time with family, but he decided to step down. I know we want to talk about Cliff a little bit. Any thoughts?
Yeah, I didn't think they'd do it. I think it's the right decision. But I did not think they would do it, mainly because they had just signed both him and Kime to a long-term extension before this season,
Yep.
which I believe ran through 2026 or 2027. Yeah, I think it was the right decision, and I think it's probably one of the more attractive jobs on the market, I guess. Honestly, none of the jobs are overly attractive.
Yeah.
But I think the presence of what most perceive to be a franchise quarterback in Kyler Murray is definitely something that is going to raise the interest level. There's obviously questions around, he has to recover from an ACL injury and he's a quarterback. That does raise some questions. Uh, and then there's the DeAndre Hopkins news about the
Yeah.
trade. But all in all, I'm glad they did it. I think Cliff, I thought since pretty early on that he was kind of flawed. It didn't make sense that hired for that job, and it didn't make sense that he kept the job or that he got an extension. So I'm just glad that he's fired. Well, okay, I don't want to say I'm glad that he's fired. I'm not. I don't take. I'm not happy anyone lost their job, but I think it's the right thing for the Cardinals franchise.
That is always the hard thing to talk about with these, because it's a weird spectrum where you are happy for the team and football as a whole, but you don't really want anyone to lose their jobs. That's obviously not a great thing for anyone. So it's like a dichotomy of emotions. And that's the way we felt, especially if it's your team, because you're like, yes, new starts, but also like this is just a person who lost their job. So try to be respectful. Another head coach who has been fired was Texans head coach Lovie Smith. He did not fall victim to Black Monday. He was fired on Sunday. I have a feeling you're going to tell us a little bit about it in 15-second frenzy, but Lovie Smith went out with a bang by giving back to his Bears community and giving them the #1 overall pick.
Like if you're watching, you can see how much I'm smiling, which seems like the opposite thing that like the opposite emotion I should be feeling when someone lost their job, especially a well-respected head coach in the league like Lovie Smith. But honestly, it's just incredible because he did and I am going to touch on this in 15-second frenzy, but he did everything he possibly could do to win that game and lose them the #1 overall pick. And then they were so angry, I guess, I'm assuming, that they did not even wait until Monday to fire him. But like the thing is we all saw it coming. We all said, why are you hiring him? Like I like Lovie Smith, but it never felt like a match that made any sense, especially seeing as you just fired your other coach after one season. I don't really know what you expected out of him that would have led to him not getting fired. So honestly, I love that Lovie Smith could kind of just flip him the bird on his way out. I don't know. I love it.
Yeah.
I'm happy for Lovie. I hope he lands somewhere. Probably not as a head coach, but I hope he gets a job somewhere if he wants one.
I agree. And I think he could. And Lovie Smith is a really likable person. I think there's stuff to be said that we'll touch more on in the offseason, but I do want to mention that the Texans have now had 2 one-and-done black head coaches, which is a conversation that has plagued the league for a while about like saying you're hiring and meeting your qualifications and then firing them right away. A lot to be said there. We'll save most of those conversations for the offseason, but Lovie Smith officially out, and who knows, maybe the Bears will thank him by giving him a job. The Rams head coach, Sean McVay, says he'll be taking some time to decide if he's going to step down. It feels like it kind of came out of nowhere. Tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, so it didn't come out of nowhere. And that's the thing. Like, we talked about this last offseason because he got a lot of attention when he said that he wasn't 100% sure if he would come back after winning the Super Bowl. And he got some very tempting offers. I forget exactly from what network, but he got tempting offers to go into broadcasting. He's young. He's a beautiful man. He would probably be a great broadcaster just from his pure knowledge of the game from a Tony Romo type standpoint. And it sounds like after by far the roughest season of his career as a head coach, dealing with the most not fun stuff that he's had to deal with, he's taking some serious consideration. I think the biggest takeaway is the fact that he's telling his coaching staff that they are able to, he's fine with them looking at or accepting other offers. And obviously the NFL has a rule where they can't stop, a club can't stop a coach from taking a a better job, like a step up. So like a quality control coach could take an offensive coordinator position, but you can block them from taking a lateral move like offensive coordinator to offensive coordinator. However, Sean McVay has said they won't stop anyone from taking a lateral move, which to me and is in the past has basically always read that coach thinks is he's done. I think he's going. I think there's a really good chance that he falls into a John Gruden of 20 years ago or however long it was. Feels like a lifetime ago, where he goes in and then every year he's not going to come back until he gets what he views as a perfect opportunity. He can take 10 years and just be on Monday Night Football if that's what he wants. And it's going to be very interesting to watch how it all happens.
Yeah, and that's another one that is intriguing if he does decide to step away as an open seat. So something to really keep an eye on there. For coordinators, I'll go through these ones a little quickly. Commanders offensive coordinator Scott Turner was fired. Titans offensive coordinator Todd Downing has been fired. He was also the one that did get a DUI after returning home from an away game. Just want to note that. Browns defensive coordinator Joe Woods has been fired. And today it came out that Jets offensive coordinator Mike LaFleur has stepped away. Reports say that may be fired.
No. It was a mutual parting of ways.
Mutual parting of ways. That's what it reports that it was mutual. LaFleur has been offered interviews at other organizations. Saleh was quoted saying something along the lines of he's going to let them pursue him. So the organization and LaFleur have made a decision to part ways. Smart.
Yeah, weird.
Odd.
Yeah, especially because like 2 days ago there was a report that he wasn't going to be fired.
Yes, and the beat reporters were like very stern on like those reports are false. The Jets are emphasizing that the reports you're hearing are false. They're still in conversations. Just an odd situation.
Yep.
And I do want to note that Jerry Jones says that Cowboys head coach Mike McCarthy's job is not on the line against the Buccaneers, even though some are claiming that it is. He did go on his usual morning radio show and say that. That is still yet to be seen. Sean Payton comeback ? Is what I have written here, because the Broncos have requested permission from the Saints to interview him. They do need to request permission because he technically is still in contract with the Saints, even though he's not an active head coach. It seems the two parties are at least at somewhat of an understanding on what would be needed to give, like what the Broncos would need to give up in order to get him from the Saints. Payton says that what's most important to him is that the front office and management works. And today it also came out that others looking for him are the Cardinals and Texans. It has a whole bunch of media clips have come out to the surface again of Sean Payton talking about Kyler Murray and kind of this love he's had for him ever since Murray's like in college. But the clip I was referencing was at the NFL Combine. So I'm sure that's a job that would intrigue him as well. So yeah, it looks like we may get Sean Payton back in the NFL.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting thing to watch. I mean, I mean, he kind of is now sort of almost falling into that John Gruden, Sean McVay category, not to the same extent. He had a much longer career, a lot more sustained success. It just sounds like, but we're going to see a full on trade here. If he decides to take a job and that's the position he's in, it's completely up to him and he wants a perfect situation. I don't know why he would take the Texans.
No.
The Cardinals also would surprise me with just I think the fact that they don't have a set GM might actually be a good thing for him. But just the general dysfunction that organization has seen would surprise me, along with the uncertainty surrounding Kyler Murray's recovery and how quick he's going to be back. And the Broncos just have all of their own issues. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there, and also what the compensation might be.
Yep. Why don't you tell us a little bit about the games that the Pro Bowl will be seeing this year? Because that was released to us today, and I am so excited.
Yeah, so the Pro Bowl, it's going to take place from Thursday to Sunday, and we're going to be seeing a lot of different stuff, more than I think was initially assumed. But we're going to be seeing a dodgeball, multi-round dodgeball tournament. We're going to be seeing a lightning round, which is consisting of 3 parts to it, I guess, for eliminations. Splash catch, which is you toss water balloons back and forth. High stakes, which is catching punts from a jug machine. And thrill of the spill, which is you aim at targets attached to a bucket hanging above the head of an opposing conference's coach. Then you've got the longest drive, which is hitting a golf ball. You've got the precision passing presented by EA Sports Madden NFL 23 Mobile, which is exactly what it sounds like. Best catch is in 2 rounds, both presented by Uber Eats. And the first one is apparently like a video one that fans are going to vote on. And it's going to be videos that they took at places around Las Vegas. And then based on the votes, that decides who's going to be competing in the second round, which is like a live like dunk contest kind of thing. Then you've got the Gridiron Gauntlet, which I believe they've done in the past, which is a side-by-side relay race showcasing different things like 40-yard dashes, breakaway walls, that kind of stuff, climbing. And you have kick-tack-toe, kicker, punter, long snapper, tic-tac-toe, exactly what it sounds like, and Move the Chains, which is basically a tug of war that has a giant wall in the middle because they're very large humans, and all culminating, of course, in the flag football game on Sunday. All of that is going to go into scoring that does things. Yeah, still figuring that one out, but it sounds like it's going to be a lot of fun, and I am excited to see this new format.
Yes, I am too, because I will watch. I don't even really like basketball. I'll watch the basketball one. I love the hockey one. The skills competitions make it so much more fun. The players look like they're having more fun. Everyone's excited to get involved in it. Getting to see some of these players have like a water balloon toss is thrilling to me. Genuinely more thrilling than any other regular Pro Bowl ever. So I am very excited, and some of them seem really interesting. So
they should use this Pro Bowl skills competition to decide the Super Bowl if it goes to overtime, I think. I've seen other sports use skill competitions to decide their major championships, and it always goes over great, and it's a great decision.
Perfect. I like it. On board.
Penalty kicks are stupid. That's the point I'm making.
I know.
Sorry.
Let's get into the injury report. So we are only going to talk about the injuries for teams who are still playing, who are going into playoffs. So that's what we'll get into. I'm only going to talk about the ones who did have injuries. There are several teams who did not. For the Bengals, guard Alex Kappa left with an ankle injury. For the Buccaneers, Mike Williams was out with an illness. Tight end Kyle Rudolph was ruled out with a knee injury. And safety Keanu Neal left the game with a hip injury. For the Chargers, the big one is that Mike Williams left the game in the second quarter with back injuries. All of his x-rays were negative. The team has him listed as day-to-day. For the Dolphins, offensive tackle Brandon Shell left the game with a knee ankle injury. Running back Raheem Mostert left the game early with a thumb injury. And quarterback Tua Tagovailoa has not cleared concussion protocol. Skylar Thompson is in line to start against the Bills. So that looks like Tua season is probably over. Was there anything to note for the Eagles?
Just that Lane Johnson, he's putting off surgery until the season's over. He's going to play. He's expected to play through his pain come the divisional round, and Avonte Maddox is still questionable. We're unsure when he's going to return. So
okay. The Ravens running back Gus Edwards left the game early with a head injury, and quarterback Lamar Jackson is on track to miss his 6th straight game with his PCL injury. He has still not practiced, so it does not look like we will be seeing any of Lamar Jackson this week. All the other teams had, I don't want to say any injury is not significant, but several of these teams did play like third stringers who usually don't get playing time. Some of them had left games early, but those are the injuries to note for the teams who are still in playoffs. And for the last time this season, Duncan, why don't you give us your full 32-team 15-second frenzy?
Can do.
All right, tell us the rules.
All right, so as usual, I have 15 seconds. I will be telling you about an NFL game, and when Ashley tells me my time is up, I will move on to the next NFL game, in which I will receive another 15 seconds to talk about that NFL game. I will talk about whatever I want to in those 15 seconds, whatever I deem important. So
perfect. I'll count you in 3, 2, 1, go.
Chiefs versus Raiders. Kansas City won with relative ease, and Jarrett Stidham seemed to take a step back from an impressive Week 17. The real question to come out of this matchup is really what the future of the Raiders is. The coach wasn't fired. Derek Carr stepped away from the team, and who knows what he's going to do next year. And then you've got the trio of Adams, Waller, and Jacobs, one of which is not under contract. Titans versus Jaguars. Doug Peterson, what a man. It wasn't the prettiest of wins against an undermanned Titans team, but it's incredible what Doug has done this season and how his players feel about him. He took the worst team in the league for 2 consecutive seasons and took them to a division title for the first time since 2017. Patriots versus the Bills. electric. What a start to the game. Obviously, everything that was going on with DeMar Hamlin played into this a lot. The offense for the Bills really didn't perform how I expected until near the end of the game, but 2 return touchdowns by Naheem Hines was awesome. Mac Jones played okay, and the New England offense looked fine, but I have to expect they'll be making some changes next year on the offensive side of the ball.
Next.
Buccaneers versus Falcons. Why did Tom Brady play in the game? I don't really know. He kind of just does that thing. He plays in the preseason too. It doesn't make sense. It's stupid and reckless, but we'll talk more about that later. The Bucs play Dallas next week, and as for the Falcons, they have a decent pick, but it'll be really interesting to see what they do this offseason at the quarterback position. Vikings versus Bears. Bears did everything they could, including playing Nathan Peterman to get the first overall pick, and look at that, they did it. The Vikings had to try to win because they still had the chance at a 1 seed, which only helps the Bears. Who are they going to do? Who are they going to draft? What are they going to do? That's what I meant to say, not who are they going to do.
Next.
Ravens versus Bengals. Bengals made easy work of the Ravens, who just kind of feel like a ghost of themselves as they go into the playoffs, likely without their star quarterback. Joe Mixon had a great touchdown celebration with the coin flip that Chad Ochocinco tweeted about prior to the game. And Jamar Chase looked awesome. Bengals look like they're about to run stuff in the playoffs. Texans versus Colts. Chicago Bears legend Lovie Smith did everything he possibly could to lose the number 1 overall pick for the Texans and get it for the Bears, which was awesome. He seriously tried so hard to win this game, going for it on a late 4th down, going for 2 to take the lead. It was great, and he didn't even make it until Monday before he got fired. Way to go, Lovie.
Next.
Jets versus Dolphins. Dolphins won and made the playoffs in a game that I was actually excited for about a month ago, but these 2 teams have been so far on the downturn that this game was basically exactly what I would have expected after the last couple weeks, and that's unwatchable. I doubt the Dolphins fare much better in the playoffs without Tua at quarterback, and I don't know what the Jets are going to do with the future. Panthers versus Saints. Well, it wasn't a great game, but it also was not a good game. Not really sure what happened to the Panthers here after the fire they've been on for the second half of the season, but I guess we'll see what change that brings next season for this franchise. As for the Saints, I have no idea. The number 10 overall pick is headed to Philly, so I'm not really sure what they expect to do this offseason. Browns versus Steelers. Mike Tomlin retains his streak of winning seasons, having never had a losing one, and the Browns get to think all offseason about what they've done before the big money part of Watson's contract kicks in. I'd hate to be a Browns fan right now. And also Deontay Johnson is telling us to wait and see what's going to happen with him. So maybe
he unfollowed the Steelers on Instagram.
Yeah, he had the most targets ever in a season without a touchdown. So that's impressive, at least. Chargers versus Broncos. Why the hell were the starters in the game in the second half? I don't know. I would have fired Brandon Staley on the spot if I'm the owner. I would have called down and said, what the hell are you doing? You're fired. I'm over. I'm done. Fire him. I don't care. It's stupid. It's irresponsible. And it literally hurt your chances at winning a playoff game with Bosa getting injured. I think he's fine. But Mike Williams had a back issue, and he had back issues for a long time. He's stupid. Giants versus the Eagles. I was there. That was fun. The Eagles won. The Giants didn't. And I wanted to get in a fight with Kayvon Thibodeau because what he did to Nick Foles was embarrassing and disgusting. And honestly, the fact that he feels no remorse for it is stupid. And I've lost all respect for him as a human being.
And Kenny Galladay scored a touchdown.
Kenny Galladay did score a touchdown, and Darius Slay was smiling about it, and it made the entire internet angry.
Yes, next.
And he only fell 74 catches short of his incentive this season. Good job, Kenny Galladay.
Yes.
Cardinals versus Niners. Started out questionably, but the Niners took care of business. Eli Mitchell's back for the playoff run, and we'll see what this team can do. As for the Cardinals, there's no more Cliff, there's no more Keim, and we don't fully know what Kyler will be when he's back. And we don't know when he's going to be back, so that's kind of scary. Rams versus Seahawks. Took a game-winning field goal in overtime, but they gave themselves a chance to make it into the postseason with a win, and they were rewarded late Sunday night after the Lions game. Who knows what to make of the Rams? Sean McVay is probably on the outs. I guess Aaron Donald was going to retire last offseason. I have no clue what to do with the Rams, but honestly, I love seeing it all fall apart for them. Cowboys versus Commanders. Literally what I wrote was LOL, shout out Sam Howell, though. Dallas put up 6 points. Dak leads the league in interceptions, even though he missed like 5 games. And Dallas looked horrendous. And they played their starters because there was a chance that they could get the 1 seed or the division title, and they sucked. But shout out Sam Howell, though. Lions versus Packers. Lions went into the game knowing they couldn't make the playoffs, but they finished with a winning record and managed to keep their division rivals out of the playoffs. I'm excited for this Lions team going forward. I think that they have a lot of pieces in place, and I'm intrigued to see what they do this offseason. And also, I have no idea what Aaron Rodgers is going to do. He's a weird guy to begin with, but I don't know. He could retire. He could move to pro golf. He could, move to an island alone. I don't know.
It's that one.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I don't know what to think of him.
Either way, that wraps up our Great segment of 15-second frenzy. We'll keep going throughout the playoffs. We'll probably extend the time a little bit or something. We'll figure it out. But I loved that segment throughout the year. And I do want to talk about the Lions real quick because they literally said, if we're not in, you're not in. Like they said it to the media. They were like, we're still playing because if we're not in, they're not going in. And looked great. What the play calling was like otherworldly. They like with 2 minutes left in the game, like a hook
They did
and
some
ladder.
weird stuff.
They did some weird things to be able to keep the Packers out of the playoffs. They
Dan
pulled
Campbell
from
was
their
playing
bag
Madden.
of tricks.
He was playing Madden.
100%.
He said,
100%.
we don't have to save anything.
Yep.
So we're
It's
just going to
exactly
do
what it
everything right
was.
now. So
Yep.
I love it.
It was incredible and a great game to watch.
Yeah.
But now let's talk about the teams who are in playoffs. Before we get into the
Eagles are in the
matchups
playoffs.
we're going to talk about them next. But first, we're going to talk about the other one seed, the Chiefs. Their Super Bowl odds are at plus 330, and they do not have an opponent this week. They have a bye. What are your thoughts on the Chiefs in the playoffs this year?
I mean, the same thing as every year. They're going to be great. I mean,
yeah,
they're like, it's hard to like. They're really good. They're just really good at what they do, which is winning and playing football games. Andy Reid is one of the best coaches in the NFL. Patrick Mahomes is probably going to win the MVP. And even without Tyreek Hill, it seems to have only made this offense better somehow. So honestly, like, I don't know. Like, there's a really good chance that they're going to be leading the AFC playoff picture race thing. I don't know. I wish I had more to say, but honestly, I just think they're really good.
Yeah,
so.
And we'll save most of our conversation for the one seeds when they do get back from their bye week. And I know we've heard your thoughts on the Eagles all year long. Anything you want to add before we talk about the matchups this week?
Yeah, they're really good. I think everyone needs to just take it. Like, people, I don't know. People are already counting us out, and I feel like if you really want the Eagles to lose, that's the last thing you should do.
Yeah.
You morons.
They've done that once before.
I'm just ready to be an angry Philadelphia fan. I'm just excited for a
ready.
playoff run.
You already are.
Oh, I know.
Have been.
Oh, but hold on. Let's just take a second. How horrible were the Eagles fans in Philadelphia? You were like
really
harassed, and you got stabbed at least 12 times, right?
They threw snowballs at me.
They weren't that bad. So you were wearing Eagles gear then, because otherwise it wouldn't have been safe for you to be there. Oh,
yeah.
So I had to fight a bunch of people off then.
Yes.
You're not supposed to say that.
That's not. But I'm just. I know.
Yes, Eagles fans were very kind to you.
They were.
I hate the media.
Kind.
I'm angry. I hate the media.
They were kind in a like they would like boo me, and every time the Giants did something, they would like point to me and laugh. But we had nothing to lose, so every time they would like point and laugh, I'd like shrug my shoulders and be like, "I'm just here for fun. This is the third stringers." But yeah, it really wasn't as bad as I expected it to be.
Yeah, because they pointed and laughed. You're a human, and it's a competitive. Like I
didn't say I was mad about it.
No, I know you're not mad. I'm mad at the way the media perceives Philadelphia, and it pisses me off. And seeing how surprisingly kind people were to you made me happy.
Yeah.
So.
Yep.
Yeah.
At one point, the guy was like, "What an ugly jacket," and I was like, "No, it's actually a nice jacket. You should look at it." He's like, "It is kind of a nice jacket." Like, like they weren't not mean this time. I've only been once, but they were not mean this time. Either way, let's get into the matchups. We'll talk about the AFC first. We'll talk about which order do you want to do this in? Like closest seeding, furthest seeding?
I don't care.
All right, so we'll do furthest seedings first.
I don't even know what that means.
Like the furthest 7 and the 2 are the seeds that are furthest apart, and 5 and 4.
I mean, it makes sense. I never would have. Just start talking.
Okay, so we'll go through the AFC first. For the AFC, the number 7 Dolphins are going to Buffalo to play the number 2 Bills. That game will be Sunday at 1:00 on CBS. The Bills Super Bowl odds are at plus 420, and the Dolphins Super Bowl odds are at plus 6,000. The Bills are 13.5 point favorites, and the over/under in this game is 43.5. It is to note that they split their meetings this year. Miami won in week 3 with a score of 21-19, and Buffalo won 32-29 in week 15.
The Eagles have
What
the
is-
fourth best odds. I hate
Something
people.
like that.
Yeah, we do. We're after the
Yeah.
Niners and the Chiefs and the Bills. Sorry.
Yeah.
I zoned out there for a minute. Yeah, I don't think this is going to be close at all.
No.
I mean, like the fact that it's a division game, one makes it more interesting.
Mhm.
But in reality, it just like it shouldn't be a good game. Like the wild card weekend is always going to be surprising, and things
Mhm.
are always like it's either the best or the second best weekend of football the entire season.
Yep.
But with this Dolphins team and the way that I mean, Skylar Thompson's going to be starting at quarterback, and I'm sorry, but like, I don't think this is going to be a Nick Foles type situation. I don't know. I don't have a lot to get excited about. Like, if anything, I think this is good for the Bills because they didn't get a bye. And I'm not saying the Dolphins are a bye week, but I'm saying that maybe this is an opportunity for that offense to get back on track because, like I said, they were fine. I still don't think they were that impressive against the Patriots in the final week of the season. And this past
Yep.
month of the season, a month plus, like the Bills have just they've been winning games, but it hasn't been in a way that makes me excited or happy. Josh Allen has been good, but not what we've become accustomed to with him.
Yep.
So I think the Bills need to take this and they need to really use this as a get well game and use this to build some momentum going further into the AFC playoffs.
I agree. And for me, there would be more intrigue with the Dolphins if the defense could help hold up, and I don't think their defense has been good enough in the past several weeks to be able to keep up with the almost non-existent offense.
Yeah.
And then that offense heavily relied on Tua, and I'm the team is not the same without him. So with him not playing, I don't put a lot of stock in the fact that the Dolphins are going to win. I think they give them a little bit of a run for their money at the beginning, but I think at the end of the day, it is not going to be that close. And I think the spread reflects that. And
13.5 for a playoff game is a lot.
A divisional playoff game.
Yeah. It's a lot.
Yeah. So all in all, I think the Bills win this one with a decent amount of ease. And the Dolphins are sent to figure out some of the issues they have.
It's going to be a really interesting offseason for them.
Yes.
And we shouldn't be talking about their offseason yet.
No.
But
getting ahead of ourselves.
It's hard not to.
This is going to be on like Cold Takes Exposed.
If we're on Cold Takes Exposed, that'd be great.
I would love.
I'm about to expose my cold take later on in this episode.
Yes.
So I mean, that'd be great.
Yeah. All right.
So we'll found that clip and I should have played it. Never mind.
Yeah. We'll move on to the next one, which is because there's really not much else to say on the Dolphins-Bills matchup. We'll look at AFC number 6 seed. The Ravens are going to the number 3 Cincinnati Bengals. That game will be the 8:15 night game on Sunday on NBC. The Bengals Super Bowl odds are at plus 800. The Ravens Super Bowl odds are at plus 3,500. The Bengals are 8.5-point favorites, and the over-under is 40.5. These two have split their meetings this year. The Ravens won 19-17 in Week 5, and the Bengals won 27-16 last week in Week 18.
Yeah, this is the lowest over-under of the wild card weekend. I think that gives the Ravens the second lowest overall expected point total. No, I'm sorry, it's the third. It's the third largest line. The Seahawks Niners have a bigger line. No, I was talking about over under, but it's also the third biggest line. And I think that gives, that should give the Ravens the second lowest predicted score.
Yeah.
There's a word, and I think I said it already, and then I lost my train of thought. Whatever. Ignore me. The Ravens just... I wasn't impressed with them at the beginning of the season when they were winning games with Lamar Jackson. Like, I didn't think Lamar Jackson looked right. And now you don't have Lamar Jackson. It's up in the air if you have Tyler Huntley. Like, we could have back-to-back games where you're seeing the third-string quarterback. Well, they're not back-to-back games, but 2 games on Sunday where we're seeing the third-string quarterback. Like, that's a real possibility. And honestly, like, I think if I was to make a bet right now, based on all of these Super Bowl odds, I think the Bengals might be the team that I bet because they have like the 5th best odds or something, and they're good. They're really good. Losing La'el Collins hurts a lot. But man, I just think the Bengals are just going to be out and ready to go. And I think
Yeah.
you're playing the Ravens in back-to-back weeks. You're in Cincinnati. I just have a hard time seeing the Bengals losing this game. I mean, the Ravens won in week 5 barely when they had Lamar Jackson, and the
Mhm.
Bengals won no problem in week 18 last week. So, yeah, again, probably the 2 worst matchups of the
Yeah.
weekend.
Yep.
And yeah, it sucks, but I think that's the
It
reality of it.
does. It does. I don't like that it's the 8:15 game.
Yeah, that kind of
But
sucks.
it does. I think
Then again, I can go
the
to
hope
sleep.
was that Lamar Jackson was going to be able to play. Like half a week ago, people were talking about like he's going to be back, and now he's still not practicing. I think the over under is so low because this game is going to be a rush fest. I think that's the right
That
game
sounds like
plan.
a sorority event in college.
Well, rush is a sorority event in college.
I that's the point I was making.
Yeah.
A
Either
rush
way,
fest. It sounds like a
rush
bunch
fest.
of rushes.
Well, that would
Never.
just be rush.
That's a band, Ashley.
I'm aware. Either way, I think the Ravens are going to play this ball on the ground. I don't see them putting way too much hope in the passing game, and I think that's why the over-under is a little bit low. I also just think that everyone kind of feels the same way about the Ravens, and that's another team that I'm just like already looking at their off season instead of what's to come because I see more a way that the Dolphins end up keeping with the Bills than I do the Ravens with Cincinnati, to be honest.
I actually disagree there. I think these lines are correct. I think if the Ravens are going to win this game, it's going to be by running the ball, and it's going to be just keeping the ball out of Joe Burrow's hands. It's, dominating the time of possession, winning a game like the Ravens of the early 2000s would win a game.
Mm-hmm.
The reality is their defense is pretty darn good. They have
Yeah.
a lot of really good players, and I believe they're getting some reinforcements back and getting healthy. So again, I don't think they're going to win, but if they're going to win, it's going to be with the run game and their defense. And yeah, the run game takes a massive hit without having Lamar Jackson. But if Tyler Huntley can go, like maybe that's a slightly more viable solution. I don't know if this line is assuming Tyler Huntley plays or doesn't play. I kind of get the feeling it's assuming Tyler Huntley will play. I feel like it'd be wider if it wasn't Tyler Huntley.
I agree.
But we'll see. I think that's their key to success. But
100%.
With the Bengals, it's just outscore them.
And that's the thing with the Bengals is even with the Ravens do have a pretty decent defense, but the Bengals come at you from all angles. Like they have an all-star running back, they have an all-star receiving core, tight ends. Everybody on that offense is contributing, so it's so hard to stop. Like the offense is just impossible to get it all. So
and it's running on all cylinders.
Yes. Yep.
I mean, Jamar Chase, like they don't need to win the time of possession to win the game because Jamar Chase can score in one play.
Yep.
95 yards if you wanted to. Like,
yep. I'm pretty sure they do technically have the most like statistically explosive offense in the NFL this year.
I would believe that. I know for a while it was the Eagles, but
the
last month or so.
Yes.
That.
Either way, our last matchup in the AFC is the number 5 Chargers going to Jacksonville to play the number 4 Jaguars. That is the Saturday 8:15 game, which will be on NBC. The Jaguars Super Bowl odds are at plus 5,000. The Chargers Super Bowl. What?
I lied. That's the bet I would make. Plus 5,000 for the Jaguars.
Oh, yes. Chargers Super Bowl odds are at plus 2,200. The Chargers are 2.5-point favorites, and the over-under is 47.5. Oh, and the Jaguars beat the Chargers 38-10 in week 3.
Yeah, they did. And that was a game like I feel like people kind of write that off. Like the Chargers, it's starting kind of like. Remind me, that was right after Justin Herbert had injured himself. Like he had that really weird thing. Was that week 2 that he had that rib thing?
I think it was that.
Yeah, like people kind of write that off, but Justin Herbert started that game. I believe they had most of their complement of weapons in that game. Like that was before they really started catching the injury bug that they had in the middle of the season. The Jaguars just came out and they started pounding on the points immediately in that game. That was like start of like the Jaguars kind of had 2 really good runs this season. And one of them was at the very beginning of the season up until kind of when they met the Eagles in week 4. Even I think they only won 2 of their first 3 games, but even in their loss, they were impressive. And then at the end of this season, I I'm surprised that the Chargers are favored.
Yep.
Especially because it's at Jacksonville. Normally, the home team gets like a 3-point,
Yes.
3 points
The
for their
buffer.
way. Yeah.
Yeah. Mhm.
So that would mean that Vegas thinks on a neutral field the Chargers, on a neutral field the Chargers would be 5.5
5 and a
point
half
favorites.
point favorites.
I'd be taking the Jaguars all day. I do think the over/under is probably pretty accurate because the Jaguars' defense has been okay. They've been better at splash plays, in my opinion, than they have been at consistently stopping opposing offenses. Obviously, they won the game on a defensive play this past week, and they won against Dallas a few weeks ago on a defensive touchdown in overtime. Man, I just think that Doug Peterson's teams play their best ball at the end of the season in December and January. That has always been the case, with the exception of 2020, the year where he got fired from the Eagles, which whatever, that was just a crap shoot in all sense of the word. 2016, his rookie year, they were playing great ball at the end. 2017, 2018, 2019, like every single season, they're always playing really good ball at the end of the season. I think the Jaguars could really surprise some people, and getting a home game. Jaguars might be the team I'm most excited to bet on this weekend, honestly, because the fact that they're not favorited, I think they should be favorited. It's the Saturday night game, which is awesome.
So excited.
Very excited. I just love Doug Peterson. I love everything that he's doing. I love the fact that his team plays for him. I'm excited to root for the Jaguars all throughout this
Yes. Yep. I was looking at the stats from their week 3 matchup. The Jaguars had them beat on time of possession by over a quarter. It was 17 minutes more time of possession for the Jaguars than the Chargers. And the one, if we're looking at keys to success here, I think the Jaguars really have to focus on their pass rush in the in game planning this week. I know they've had a little bit of up and down with the pass rush this year, but I was looking at Justin Herbert's PFF grades. His PFF grade drops 30 points, like almost a full 30 points when he's under pressure.
Yeah.
So I think that's your one. You have to get to him quick. This Chargers team has been beaten up and has injuries and things like that. So you cannot give them time to get settled. You just have to attack Justin Herbert.
And I believe are they getting Rashawn Slater back? I'm fairly sure that's the case. I think I forgot to mention that earlier. Yeah. No, he's not going to play. So he's designated for return. So he's returning to practice, but he will not be playing. I knew I saw something about that. So that being said, again, I feel like we're talking very heavily about the Jaguars because I think we both think they're going to win, but the Chargers they have the talent to be a good team. It's just so few and far between the number of times that we've seen them put it all together this season is what it feels like. But that being said, like if they can get after the passer, if they can get to Trevor Lawrence, and if they can protect Justin Herbert, like I think that's how they win the game. Is if they win in the trenches, and that's true for most teams, but I think it's especially true for the Chargers because, like you said, if Justin Herbert has a clean pocket, he's going to make plays. He's got his wide receivers healthy. He's got Austin Eckler. They're a really good. They do have a lot of talent. They do have a lot of talent. But they don't exactly have the vibes and the momentum I think the Jaguars have, which maybe that's a little overrated, but yeah.
Yep. And I do want to point out Jacksonville is number 12 in rush yards, NFL team opponent rushing yards per game with 114. So if you could find some ways to get Austin Eckler in there, I think that's going to be huge for them, especially depending on what happens with Mike Williams, because that takes away a key player from the offense. So there is going to be a lot on Austin Eckler, I think, this week.
Oh, yeah.
Either way, on to the NFC. Our number 7 Seahawks are heading to the San Francisco Bay to play the number 2 Niners. That is the Saturday game at 4:30, which will be on Fox. The Seahawks Super Bowl odds are at plus 5,000. The Niners Super Bowl odds are at plus 450. The line is that the Niners are favored by 9.5 points. The over and under is 42.5. The Niners swept the Seahawks this season. They were 27-7 in week 2 and 21-13 in week 15.
They actually don't. They don't play in San Francisco. In Santa Clara.
Oh, sorry.
It's like an hour away.
Glad that's what you took away.
That's like dumber than the Giants stadium situation.
Yeah. I know
They
when I
should
went to Galvanize and
only for the 49ers.
when I went to Galvanize for the Chargers, I like when I was reporting, I didn't want to say I was in Los Angeles because I wasn't in Los Angeles. I was in Santa Ana. Like, so I didn't say where I was because it felt weird because I'm not where I say I am. It was a very odd thing. So it's the same with the Chargers that their practice facilities and stuff are in Santa Ana.
I personally don't know what that's like.
Yeah.
Imagine having a team that doesn't actually play. Yeah,
which
you, by the way, spoke very highly of. Don't try and go back on it now.
I did. I'm not
love the
going back on it.
Philadelphia
I
Sports
told family and friends here, I did love the sports complex. I thought it
Yeah.
was great. I think it's a really smart thing to have all of them in one little place.
We're very smart over in Philadelphia.
That is not a word I would often use with
What
Philadelphia.
the hell?
Take it with your
Plenty smart.
Yeah. Many smarts. Tell us what your thoughts on this matchup.
Yeah, I mean the Niners swept the Seahawks. I'm pretty sure you said that, but I zoned out because I was googling. Yeah, I was googling
where they play. I know that I said I'm glad that's what you took away from it.
Eyes glazed over. Yeah. It's unfortunate, but it happens all the time. Yeah. The Niners are the scariest team I think in the entire playoffs. Like I don't think they're the best team necessarily, but I think over the past 8 weeks they've been playing the best football in the NFL.
We were sitting in the stadium and the Niners were losing at the beginning of the game. And you could attest to the fact that I was nervous because if they lost, the Giants were playing the Niners. And that is the last thing I wanted in the first round was to play the Niners. That I was sitting there checking my phone incessantly because I did not want the Niners to lose.
I don't think anyone wants to play the Niners.
No.
And a really interesting stat was that every single one of the Niners opponents this entire season lost the week after playing the Niners.
Yes.
It's the first time in NFL history. They were 0-17 or whatever it is. I think someone might have a bye week or something. Might be 0-15. But regardless, that's an interesting stat. It doesn't mean anything. I have no idea. But the takeaways that you can kind of glean from it are that the Niners play an extremely, extremely physical style of football. Their defense is hard-nosed. They have the defensive player of the year that is literally being taken off of the boards in Nick Bosa.
Yes.
I think, okay. Always get them.
One of the Bosas.
Yeah, and Nick
Joey's
Bosa.
on the Chargers, right?
Yeah. I knew what teams they're on. I just forget which first name went where.
Yes.
But
Nick Niners.
Yeah. Oh, smart. And they run the ball really hard. Their offensive line is great. Kyle Juszczyk is awesome. And Brock Purdy just does enough to keep the offense afloat. Like people are. It is impressive what Kyle Shanahan does with Brock Purdy, but to be honest, like Brock Purdy's not doing anything that impressive because of the way that offense runs, the way that team runs. Like he's not going out there and passing for 500 yards and 4 touchdowns. Like he's had impressive plays. I'm not trying to take anything away from him, but like he is not the reason that this team is working. Like part of me thinks that you could take like if you put a Stetson Bennett on that team, I kind of have a feeling that like they'd probably be fine. I mean, he's like a 90-year-old playing college football, so like maybe that's the wrong choice. But regardless, I mean, they just did put up like 50-some points in the national championship. So again, maybe not the best example, but regardless, they're a hard-nosed team, and I don't think any team wants to play them. I know I'm glad that the Eagles would not have to play them until the NFC Championship, and it would be in Philly. But I think, weirdly enough, if there's a team I'm kind of going to pick to beat them before the NFC Championship, it might be the Seahawks. Division opponents get weird. I don't know if the Seahawks are necessarily set up to beat them, but like it just kind of screams really, really weird stuff happening.
Yeah,
this
100%.
Game. Because it's the Seahawks and the Niners, and the Seahawks are already doing so much other stuff that's weird. Like Geno Smith is in the playoffs. That is weird in itself. So I don't know. I'm not picking the Seahawks to win, but I might pick the Seahawks to cover. I mean, the Niners are 9.5-point favorites. Like, I think it might be.
Game.
Yeah, I think it might be a little closer than that. The score doesn't necessarily look that way. I mean, they didn't play them well in week 2, but in week 15, like the Seahawks played them well. So it'll be interesting. I'm terrified.
And to your point of the whole nobody wins after playing the Niners thing, I think part of it too is I had this conversation when I was in my X's and O's classes with Coach Kyle Kasky, and they're at, I'm trying to figure out how to phrase it the right way. So going in as an NFL team, you have to play to your strengths, but there are certain teams that you have to take a more unique approach to, and I think that's the Niners, just because of the way their defense works. On offense, you have to make these tweaks and adjustments while still playing up to your strengths, but you can't just go in there with a normal game plan. So I think the Seahawks under Pete Carroll know that that's something they have to do. If it was a less experienced head coach, I would say maybe they try and stick a little bit more, but I don't doubt that Pete Carroll has a couple of tricks up his sleeve that will help playing the Niners this week. I do think the Niners come out with this one on top, but I agree with you that if there's going to be one to upset them, I think it's going to be the Seahawks. They just have weird energy. And what would be your key to success for the Seahawks?
I think you gotta, I don't know, like you just gotta do weird stuff, man. I don't know. Like, let Geno Smith make throws that he has no business making that he was making earlier in the season, like the Tyler Lockett in the back corner of the end zone from 60 yards away. Like, I don't know, because the Seahawks they tend to be a very hard-nosed team, and I don't know if you can beat the Niners by trying to play their game. So maybe it's rely on DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett. On defense, I think you really, really, really have to get after Brock Purdy. Like, and that's hard because that offensive line is really good, and they rely on their running game, and that's part of the run game is such a large part of the protection of Brock Purdy because you can't ignore the run game. But I think if you're going to win, you have to hit him early and often because you have to get him to make mistakes. He is a rookie 7th round quarterback playing in his very first playoff game. You have to take advantage of that. You have to force him to make mistakes or you're not going to win this game. If Brock Purdy doesn't have any turnovers, I don't think the Seahawks win.
Yep.
I mean,
I agree with you there.
I don't think they can just outmuscle him.
Perfect. So let's go into the number 6 Giants who are heading to Minnesota to play the number 3 Vikings on Sunday at 4:30 on Fox. The Giants Super Bowl odds are plus 6,000. The Vikings Super Bowl odds are plus 3,000. The Vikings are 3-point favorites and the over-under is 48.5. The Vikings beat the Giants week 16, 27-14 with a 62-yard last second walk-off field goal.
Wouldn't it be 27-24?
Oh, sorry, I wrote 14. Yes, 27-24. My bad. Typo.
I was looking that up. I was like, I'm pretty sure that's that. Why did they kick the field goal at the end if that?
Yeah, sorry. No, it was a walk-off field goal, so it was 27-24. I had a typo. But yeah, I'm not salty about that one at all. Tell me your thoughts before I tell you mine.
I think the Vikings are the most fraudulent 13-win team that I've ever seen. Holy crap. By DVOA, they're like the 27th best team in the league. That is bad.
Yes.
They also have a negative point differential by minus 100. Oh my God, it's horrible. Oh, when they lose so spectacularly. They've only lost a few games, but they have 13
They also
wins.
win spectacularly. They have won 11.
They don't win spectacularly. They win closely. When I say spectacularly, I mean if you fail spectacularly, you don't barely fail. You fail big time. When they lose, they lose spectacularly.
Okay, so I should use a different word. I don't even know what to call, but I don't even know what to say. Sorry.
They win barely.
Yes.
They hardly win.
Hardly win.
They sneak through it.
They're a 13-win team with who can hardly win.
But it's true though.
It is.
11 of those wins are 1-score games.
Yeah.
And there's something to be said about that. But that is one of the from year to year, that is one of the most fluctuating stats. It almost never carries over to the next season.
Yeah.
Good Lord. It's just they're a mess. They're a mess. And also they're 3-point favorites at home. That means Vegas thinks that it's a fair game. It's zeros, whatever. Yeah, man. It's just and they have plus 3,000. They are plus 3,000 to win the Super Bowl. That is wild for a 13-win team. That is disrespectful, but also it's the correct choice.
Yeah.
I just don't think they're that good. And also Sunday at 4:30, that's not exactly prime time. Maybe that works to their advantage. And Justin Jefferson exists. So like that's good for the Vikings. My key to success there is just give the ball to Justin Jefferson as much as you can, I guess. So yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. Who do you think walks away with it?
So I'll probably do my picks later this week. I think we'll probably text about it. I'll probably pick the Giants.
I agree. So
I also think it's going to be an insanely popular pick. I think the line will go down because of that.
Yep. The Giants, this is their first playoff appearance since 2016.
Also known as the infamous boat picture.
Oh, yes, the boat. Everything went downhill after that. I don't remember.
Yes.
The boat picture is now history, so don't talk about it. But yeah, I don't see if it comes down to a one-score game again. I think this is going to be the one time it might come back to bite them. Like you do it 11-0 times. Like you all 11 times you win in a one-score game. I think it's possible that it's a one-score game and it doesn't fall their way at the exact worst moment that they don't hope. There it is, the boat picture. For those who are listening on streaming services, Duncan has put up a picture, the infamous picture, the Giants on the boat. Yeah.
Incredible.
Incredible, truly. I do think it is to note here that the Vikings did only win by 3 points, even with Justin Jefferson and TJ Hawkinson both having an incredible day on New Year's Eve, Christmas Eve. Can you pull up those stats for me real quick?
What?
Yeah.
I'm now looking at, for some reason, a picture of Eli Manning on the beach came up, and it's funny. What stats?
The Giants and Vikings first matchup and on Christmas Eve. Because I wanted to quote the exact stats, but I forgot to pull it up on Justin Jefferson and TJ Hawkinson.
You should be saying something while I'm looking them up.
Oh, sorry. I thought you had them. You made a face that you had them.
Oh.
Either way, I think it stands to reason that is a feat in and of itself, especially with a superstar player like Justin Jefferson. You were able to keep your team in it, even with their star players going well and having a great game, which I think is important because it's hard to shut down someone like Justin Jefferson. You cannot go in there expecting to have, him not do anything unless you're I'm sure you're going to make that comment. So you were, weren't you?
I was going to say, unless you're Darius Slay.
Unless you're Darius Slay. But I think it's an incredible thing to
or Jair Alexander.
Say,
fair.
Yeah. And say that's a good thing. Do you have the stats?
Yeah, he went 12 for 133 and 1. Justin Jefferson did. And TJ Hawkinson went 13 for 109 and 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, exactly. So I think the Giants are looking good at the right time. And yeah, I'm very excited for this team. I do want to put in there that since 1993, if the Giants are in playoffs and win one game, they end up going to the Super Bowl. Giants win. Close one. Giants win.
What if they miss never mind.
Don't.
I'm not going to put that in the air.
With technically 2 minutes left in the show, don't get me riled up. And our last matchup of the day is number 5 Cowboys heading to Tampa Bay to play the number 4 Buccaneers. That is our super wild card Monday night game at 8:15, which will be broadcast on ABC and ESPN. The Cowboys' current Super Bowl odds are plus 1,300. The Buccaneers' current Super Bowl odds are plus 3,000. The Cowboys are 2.5 point favorites, and the over-under is 45.5. The Buccaneers did beat the Cowboys 19-3 in Week 1.
Yeah, so I was saying that my freezing cold take, I was going to call myself out. After they played in Week 1, when we were discussing all of the takeaways from Week 1, I said that the Cowboys might be the worst team in the entire league.
Mm-hmm.
And they looked like the worst team in the entire league after Week 1. Brady doesn't lose to the Cowboys.
Nope.
I kind of just think the Bucs are going to steamroll them. Yeah. I don't even think the Cowboys are a bad team. Like that's not me taking anything away from the Cowboys. It's just the vibe I get from this game is I think that Tom Brady is going to go out there and he's going to steamroll them. I don't think Dak has not been playing well. He's been throwing a lot of interceptions. He leads the league in them. He's thrown a pick 6 in 3 of the last 4 games or something crazy like that. And I think if you do that kind of stuff against Tom Brady, team be damned. Tom Brady is Tom Brady, and I don't want to play him in the playoffs. I don't think that they're going to go out and smoke them like they did the Eagles last year, the Bucs, that is. But a 19-3 is not something that would shock me. It's an okay to good game, a safe game, a good enough game from Tom Brady's offense, and the defense just balling out. And the stage being too big for the Cowboys. I'm shocked that the Cowboys. I'm not shocked that the Cowboys are favored because they're the 5 seed, but even still, they've been one of the best teams in the league this season. But the Bucs are another underdog team that I'm very willing to bet on this week.
Yep, and the Cowgirls are allergic to the second round of the NFL playoffs for some reason. So, do I think it's possible that the Cowboys end up walking away this one easy-handed? Yes. I don't think it's going to play out like it. Like,
I think if they win, it's going to be a close game.
Yes, on paper, they should smoke the Buccaneers, but I just don't think it's shaping up to look like that. This could be Tom Brady's last game in Tampa Bay. It could be Mike McCarthy's last game as a head coach, no matter what Jerry Jones says. It's just shaping up to be this like absolute battle. And I said this at the beginning of the season, and I got some pushback from it, but I don't know that Dak is the guy. And they're paying him an exorbitant amount of money, and he's just not performing.
Like
and especially with a team that has struggled to make it out of the first round of playoffs, and you're playing against a team that has Tom Brady on it, you cannot be making the stupid turnovers that have been happening. And
he, that's not something he's done all his career. No. That is not that is new to this season. If the one thing he's been very good at is probably not turning the ball over, but that has not been the case this season.
Yep. So yeah, and the Bucs, even banged up, their rush defense is still pretty good. So going out with Tony Pollard and Ezekiel Elliott is not going to be like that. They can't rely way too heavily on that. Even if the Bucs defense is not as good as it was last year, that run defense is still top tier. So it has to be in Dak's hands, and I don't think that's where I want the ball to be. Yes, exactly. That is not where I'd want the ball to be, and I think that's where it's going to have to be to win this game. And that's why I think the Buccaneers probably end up sneaking away with this one.
Yeah. How about one more fun fact for the road?
Okay.
That has nothing to do with either of those teams.
Okay.
The Philadelphia Eagles are the first team in NFL history to secure a number 1 seed twice in 5 years with 2 different head coaches and 2 different quarterbacks.
Yes, I did see that. It's insane.
Howie Roseman, Executive of the Year, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah. We're also approaching almost the 20th year of not having a back-to-back NFC East champion.
Yep.
We didn't
I think we're on
that,
18 or something.
Yeah, I think it's 18 years now.
Screwed up division.
Right?
Not a single losing record, though, this season.
No.
In our division.
Nope.
Ron Rivera somehow had a 500 record.
Yep.
In a 17-game season.
Yeah.
Good job, Ron Rivera.
Ron Rivera, man. Anyway, I think that about does it. We're in for a really fun weekend of football. Anything else you want to add? If not, you can tell us where we can find you.
You can find me enjoying a stress-free weekend of football.
Lucky you.
Because the Eagles don't play. And then immediately on Tuesday morning, I will be
pacing around.
Getting more gray hairs. I might have to take a week off from work. We'll see. It's been a while since I've had this much stress. Actually, it's been 5 years, weirdly enough. But yeah, other than that, you can find me on Twitter. You can find me wherever.
No more Under the Wire.
No more Under the Wire. You can find me on Twitter at mpduncan75. You can find me on the Undroppables Discord, all that kind of stuff. And you can find me here the next Wednesdays while we talk about playoff football.
Yep. Perfect. You can find me on Twitter at Ashley_Marie with 2 A's in Ashley. You can find me and all my content along with Duncan and all his content on the undroppables.com. And you can gain access to us, the entire Undroppables team, around the clock if you become a patron, which you can do at patreon.com/theundroppables. Just a small fee, and you'll be able to talk with everyone on our team, get betting advice, especially heading into these wacky lines that always come around. But and player props. We have some really great guys on the team who will tell you about matchups and defenses, and especially those of you who play Dynasty football or looking to get into it, you get your advice from our great Dynasty experts. And like Duncan said, every Wednesday night live at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch, or you can listen back wherever you listen to your podcasts. I hope you all have a wonderful day. Those of you who are rooting for your teams, I hope they do well, unless you are a Vikings fan.
Fair enough.
Okay.
I can go with that.
Okay, perfect.
I'll be rooting for the Giants this weekend.
Yay. I love that. But all right. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Go Birds.